In 38 countries on the African continent, homosexual acts are illegal. In some countries, gays can even be sentenced to death. Many other African countries impose lengthy prison sentences. Should we condemn Africa's treatment of gays? Chris Sugden, should we condemn this? Should we be more vocal?
I think in engaging with any other culture, we need to take time to find out about the background of what's going on in that culture. I've been listening to those who from Africa, and they tell us that in many of those cultures there was a history over generations of homosexual rape of young men, which has engendered huge revulsion in those societies and the damage that it did. The sort of revulsion that we would feel about the issues we were talking about in the previous debate about child wrongdoing. And so we have to understand that. I was with the Archbishop of Sudan when he spoke at the Lambeth Conference 2 years ago, and he said that in his country people were being killed because they were, his Christian people were being killed because they were associated with a church, an international church in America, which was very liberal and very open and very promoting of open gay activity. Now, first of all, we should say criminalization of homosexual acts and punishing them, that's wrong. But there are ways in which African societies, in recent times in Nigeria, Uganda, and now Malawi itself,
but internally... the church, I mean, this works in Malawi. The church takes a huge burden of blame here for the poisonous attitude. Surely, I mean, listen to this leading churchman here, the Anglican Bishop Uyo in Nigeria. This is an Anglican bishop, the Right Reverend Isaac Arama. And these comments like this are commonplace. Believes homosexuals are, quote, inhumane, insane, satanic, and not fit to live. Now, this is a leading Anglican churchman.
Taking the comment of one person...
Well, I could give you a list.
Well, I'd like to see the list. Taking the comment of one person, it would be like taking, for example, the stance of the British National Party, for the sake of argument, as being descriptive and usual for the whole of the
hang on a minute, these attitudes are common, aren't they?
Very much so. Clearly, on the African continent, we do have large numbers of gays who are being suppressed, harassed. Homophobic behaviour is rampant. We have situations, especially what we see in Sudan, where clearly it's been outlawed. A man could be stoned in Nigeria to death. And in Kenya, we've seen riots just because of gay weddings. Clearly, there's a change in mindsets required urgently. And more so, we have difficulty when we have leaders who are not prepared to go the extra mile and change the constitution to adopt a new form of policy.
And church leaders embracing those attitudes, that's very commonplace. I mean, you know, there are lists of such incredibly poisonous, hateful quotes.
They are. The church hasn't helped, simply because of their ways of doing things. They're not prepared to conform. But I think society as a whole has to change, and that comes with education. We have large swathes of the African continent of which nearly 80% are illiterate. Only when we can actually transform their minds, improve their minds exactly about what's involved with being gay, and that people are responsible, as the charity I support clearly states, that we promote gays and we assist, we ensure that they live their lives as normal as possible. It's very important that the government changes its attitude and the people on the ground understand that.
Well, say you want to say something, yes?
Yeah, actually, I don't think it's an issue of illiteracy. It's an issue of, it's just like what we debated in the other question. In African society, we actually have this belief that homosexualism is wrong. And it's something like, somebody like you said, okay, somebody stole, like everybody knows it's wrong. In Africa, it is wrong. No matter what we try and do, no matter what we do, because
what do you mean?
Most African countries,
in Africa it is wrong? What do you mean?
Because the African culture is based on religion, majorly. It's either you're a Muslim, you're a Christian. Most people, even if you're a pagan in Africa, you won't come out and say, yo, I'm a pagan. It's like everybody thinks it's wrong. And we actually have that belief that our society...
Do you think it's wrong?
To me, I think it's wrong.
Davis, you're a gay man. You had to get out of Nigeria, didn't you?
Yes, I'm gay and I'm from Nigeria. and its attitude, homophobic attitude, especially from the church, that led, people like me, to live permanently in the UK today. People keep saying that, what is an African culture? People keep saying that homosexuality is on Africa, and I think that that's totally untrue. Before the advent of Western missionaries to Africa, our people have experienced, they know what is homosexuality, and same-sex people, share their love. It is the Western missionaries with their conservative views that said to our people that this thing is sin, and so you do not do it. If you practice this thing, you will burn and you will go to hell. And now our people have held on to it. And they hold on to that.
So I'm confused here. There's a contradiction, because Chris says that, colonial history introduced homosexuality, and now you're saying colonial history introduced homophobia.
No, I didn't say it introduced it. I said
encouraged it.
No, I didn't say that. I said that in African history, and this is from African colleagues have said that there was generations on generations of the homosexual rape of young men as an instrument of power in society, and that they wanted to get free from. Also, I mean, what the Christian church did, and the Christian church has grown phenomenally in Africa, was brought a degree of order to sexual relationships. It addressed the issue of polygamy, so that children would know who their parents were, so that you would have proper relationships between man and wife. Now, I didn't say that it was the missionaries who brought this. I think what I understand from Christian leaders in Africa is they're very grateful for the Christian church for bringing order and stability in those relationships. And those societies, if I can just finish, those societies had their ways of dealing appropriately with this matter. It wasn't a matter of being harsher with them. It would say that we have a way of dealing with it. That what is the problem at the moment is where there's an understanding of universal rights which the West feels it has the monopoly on and wants to impose on other societies. We wouldn't do this for China.
That's profound nonsense. Gay people are not introduced into societies. No, it's not like somebody introduces the idea of homosexuality and a load of men think, oh, I know, I'll leave my wife for a man. Absolutely profound nonsense. Homosexuals have existed in every culture throughout society, not just because, by the way, it's worth reminding the church leaders of this, not because it's an act of sex, but because it's an act of love. Because it's a basic requirement of human relationships for some people. Now, and as such, deserves respect. One of the problems we have in this debate is always twofold. Firstly, that a lot of white, Western, liberal-minded people fear desperately condemning a backward attitude towards homosexuality in Africa in case it is seen itself as being colonialist. And then you have the problem of church leaders, and there are very many of them, I can tell you, because I've spoken to them and I've heard them speak, and the kind of filth that church leaders in Africa come out with about homosexuality is unforgivable and fundamentally, in my understanding, un-Christian. What on earth happened to loving thy neighbour instead of not just condemning him, but saying he should be killed? This is the sort of filth that plays into basic prejudices in a society like ours and like Africa's, and the church should have no part in it. And all you can do is sit here and say that the church in America has behaved in too liberal a way. What is going to happen? How can we solve this? Either the African churches would come up to speed and African society would become more tolerant, more liberal, or the rest of the world has to go backwards. Which would you prefer?
Well, it's very interesting that you demonstrate the sort of understanding of Africa that looks at it as primitive and uncivilized.
No, in that one respect. In that one respect,
I think I would want you to look at China and how do you deal with China on these sort of issues. But you asked me particularly about African churches. I think it is unfair to take the statements of one or two people.
No, the church leaders, the Archbishop of Nigeria. This isn't one or two leaders. This isn't random people. The gentleman there knows better than me and better than you, I suspect.
The Archbishop of Nigeria.
Davis.
Can I disagree with Chris, because I was born and raised in Nigeria, and I know how the Nigerian church works far better than Chris, because it's not from that area. The Anglican Church in Nigeria, the recent retired Archbishop of Nigeria, Peter Akinola, whom you work with, they are the people who actually champion and push forward the same-sex draconian bill that didn't succeed to imprison gay and lesbian people. The Anglican bishops in all provinces have been actively involved lobbying government to pass harsher, tougher laws against,
allow me to bring in Mohammed,
against gay people.
I'll let you
And I think that there is no gospel in that. You talk of healing of gay people. I actually will present myself here, and I would like to see any pastor or bishop who have that power, who think that if I choose to be gay, to actually heal me here, right, in the public.
Mohammed Hatatat from the Manchester